Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to a new episode of Amy's The Friday Pulse. Today, we are tackling a very controversial issue that is crucial in the life of many Mauritanians. Today, we are tackling Mauritanians' interaction with news agencies. News agencies play a great role in the life of Mauritanians. Average Mauritanians spend most of their time watching news TV channels. They may not follow a specific story, or they may, but if they decide to do so, they do it around the clock. Wars, conflicts, international crises, and disasters are favorite topics that attract Mauritanians. Most of Mauritanians conclude and become aware just after listening to a report on an issue. In one word, they use media to position themselves. Media sometimes teach people to be tolerant. At the same time, they show that they are intolerant. At the end, a Mauritanian does not get the stories that will change his life and better his living conditions. Media is not at all innocent. It pretends to cover for the people, but it only covers for its interests. Within this chaos, it is legitimate to raise questions about the editorial line of these TV channels, their impact, and the expectations of Mauritanians from these news TV channels. As usual, we are going to discuss the following questions with Amy members, and the first question will be going to Mohamed Yahya. Mohamed Yahya, how does news agencies inform the Mauritanian audience?
That's a big question. Mauritanians today are simply overwhelmed by a huge number of local and international news agencies, and the number is increasing day by day. Personally, I got confused. What amazed me is that a local event like a presidential event or a scandal in one of the institutions can be covered very differently. Each website or newspaper will cover it based on its own editorial line, which sometimes is done at the expense of the professional ethics. I know that editorial line differs from one news agency to another, but that should not be against the principles of the profession of media. Therefore, many people here are misinformed. Most of our news agencies focus only on politics from various perspectives while ignore the sufferings of thousands of poor people and countless numbers of jobless youth. News agencies here rarely cover social and cultural issues. I don't know why politics is everything in this country. I don't know why we adopt other countries' problems while we ignore ours. It's amazing to see how some foreign channels galvanize Mauritanian audience around the clock to sympathize with the Gaza people. It's great if we could get similar channels and local news agencies focusing only on fighting illiteracy and unemployment. I hope such news agencies insist on the decision makers to support youth and contribute in the process of development. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mohamed Yahya, for your intervention. Mr. Ali Sheikh, to what extent news agencies impact the audience?
Thank you very much for this question, which is very pertinent and interesting. I think media nowadays is reshaping and impacting the whole process of making decision, or decision making, as well as street manifestations. The Mauritanian audience sometimes get influenced by the media coverage and how news agencies cover or provide the news according to certain ideologies or strategies. The extent to which Mauritanian audience is affected by these strategies is most of the time disturbing and blurring in a way which reflects the innocence or subjectivity rather than objectivity. In our Arab world, many TV channels and websites are biased and subjective whenever it comes to certain issues that are seen by many people, repeating the echo of these strategies without being interested in disinterestedness. The impact of news agencies or the Mauritanian audience on the Mauritanian audience is obvious in the interaction of Mauritanians with the news provided by the objectively or subjectively. I mean that reality or the objectivity is lost or reproduced somewhere between the right to know and the duty to question. This news. For example, media coverage of the event of Gaza recently, we have seen how the world was reacting differently towards the same event. Many Mauritanians were protesting in the streets of Nouakchott because of the impact of the one-dimensional vision of the incident. Why the impact of news agencies is increasing day after day in remote areas and crossing borders. Is the world of today a place where information has become an ideology? Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Sheikh, for your intervention. And now the question goes to Muntalib. Muntalib, what does Mauritanian expect from news agencies?
Thank you, Mohammed Bouya. Mauritanians are news-thirsty, enthusiastic, and too emotional by nature. It's a general truth that cannot be avoided even before the outbreak of the nowadays countless news agencies. Mauritanians' eagerness of knowing what is happening in the neighborhood or somewhere else is not something new. Collecting news is a habit in our traditional society and a part of the social greetings. The problem is that Mauritanians classify news stations according to their own interests, ideologies, and mood. They have their own expectations that are stemmed from the mainstream or some narrow personal standpoints towards the event being covered. Any channel that does not reflect or express their own attitudes and way of thinking is not a trustworthy news source. Unfortunately, this makes some news agencies seize the opportunity to play on the emotions of our innocent audience while covering specific issues related to occasional events. To avoid overgeneralization, there are Mauritanians who are able to get rid of the colorblindness and see events from different angles objectively without any sensitivity. But unfortunately, they are very few. While the overwhelming majority expect from news agencies to have only one opinion, one standpoint that reflects theirs, I hope Mauritanians put an end to this chaos and do not mix instigating statements with news items. Thank you very much.
Dear AMY members, online audience, we wish you good luck, and keep in mind that true story can be in suspicious frames. Thank you very much.